The underestimated species, the deep space reconnaissance vessel Stellar Fang, drifted silently through the void, its bioorganic hull pulsing with a faint blue luminescence. Admiral Zex Corvin stood in the command chamber, his 6 arms folded across, his chitinous chest as he studied the holographic display before him. The third planet from the yellow star, designated as Sol 3, rotated slowly in the projection, its blue and green surface appearing deceptively peaceful. "Report," Zex commanded, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had conquered 12 star systems for the Corvin Syndicate. Sub-Commander Vex approached, her mandibles clicking nervously. "Admiral, our long-range scans confirm the presence of a developing civilization. The dominant species appears to be bipedal mammals calling themselves humans. Their technology level is ... primitive." Zex's compound eyes gleamed with interest. "Define primitive." "They still use chemical propulsion for space travel, sir. Their weapons are primarily kinetic-based projectiles and basic explosives. No plasma cannons, no quantum disruptors, no energy shields. They have recently developed nuclear fission, but their fusion technology is still experimental." Vex paused, consulting her biotablet. "According to our classification system, they rank as Category 5, minimal threat." The Admiral's thorax vibrated with what passed for laughter among his species. In over 2 centuries of life, he had overseen the integration of 47 different worlds into the Syndicate. Some species had required months of orbital bombardment to subdue. Others had surrendered immediately upon seeing the superior technology of the Corvin fleet. But Category 5 species were always the easiest. They typically joined the Syndicate willingly once they understood the benefits of galactic citizenship. "Excellent," Zex said, his voice carrying satisfaction. "Signal the Syndicate Council. We have found another candidate for integration. Begin standard first contact protocols." Meanwhile, 300,000 kilometers away, Captain Sarah Chun stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, humanity's most advanced orbital facility. The station orbited Earth's moon, serving as both a research outpost and an early warning system for potential threats. Sarah had been stationed there for 2 years, and nothing had ever prepared her for what she was seeing through the station's most powerful telescopes. "Captain, you need to see this," called Dr. Marcus Webb from the sensor array. The astrophysicist had been tracking unusual readings for the past 6 hours, and his face was pale with excitement and fear. Sarah floated over to Marcus's workstation, her movements graceful in the low-gravity environment. The displays showed a massive object lurking at the edge of the solar system, clearly artificial in origin. It was roughly cylindrical, but with organic curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal. Most disturbing of all, it was over 2 kilometers long. "When did it arrive?" Sarah asked, her military training keeping her voice steady despite the implications. "Based on the gravitational distortions, approximately 18 hours ago. It just ... appeared. No engine signatures, no thermal emissions. Whatever technology brought it here is beyond our current understanding." Sarah activated the station's emergency communication system. Within minutes, she was connected to Earth's Defense Command. General Harrison's weathered face appeared on the main screen, his expression grim. "Captain Chun, what's the situation?" "General, we have confirmed contact with an alien vessel. It's massive, technologically advanced, and positioned at the edge of our solar system. I'm transmitting all sensor data now." General Harrison studied the incoming data for several moments. "Captain, I want you to attempt communication. Use the standard mathematical sequences we've prepared for first contact scenarios. But be careful. We don't know their intentions." Sarah nodded and moved to the communication station. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated the quantum radio array. This was the moment humanity had dreamed of and feared for generations. She began transmitting a series of prime numbers, followed by mathematical constants and basic atomic structures. Response came within minutes. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet," came a voice through the speakers. The words were clearly artificial, generated by some kind of translation device. "We are representatives of the Corvin Syndicate. We bring greetings from the Galactic community." Sarah exchanged glances with Marcus before responding. "This is Captain Sarah Chun of the Luna Station, representing the United Earth Defense Force. We welcome contact with your people. We have observed your species for some time." The alien voice continued. "Your world shows great potential for development. We would like to discuss the possibility of your integration into our syndicate." The word integration sent a chill down Sarah's spine. She had studied enough history to know that when powerful civilizations spoke of integrating weaker ones, it rarely ended well for the weaker party. "We appreciate your interest," Sarah replied carefully. "However, any formal discussions would need to involve our planetary government. We would be happy to arrange a meeting with our diplomatic representatives." There was a pause. Then the alien voice responded with what sounded like amusement. "Of course. We understand the need for proper protocols. We will send a delegation to your moon station for preliminary discussions. Please prepare suitable accommodations." The transmission ended, leaving Sarah and Marcus staring at each other in shock. First contact with an alien species had just occurred, and they were coming to Luna Station over the next several hours. Sarah worked frantically to prepare for the arrival of the alien delegation. She coordinated with Earth's governments, set up translation equipment, and arranged for additional security personnel to be shuttled up from Earth. Dr. Webb ran continuous scans on the alien vessel, trying to understand their technology. "Sarah, you need to see this," Marcus called out, his voice tight with concern. "I've been analyzing the alien ship's emissions. Their technology is incredibly advanced, but there's something else. I'm detecting what appear to be weapons signatures. Lots of them." Sarah studied the data on Marcus's screen. The alien vessel was bristling with unknown energy sources, many of which showed patterns consistent with weapon systems. This was not just a diplomatic ship. It was a warship. "They're not here to negotiate," Sarah realized. "They're here to evaluate our defenses." Before Marcus could respond, the ship's proximity alarms began blaring. 3 smaller vessels had detached from the alien mothership and were approaching Luna Station at incredible speed. Sarah rushed to the communication station. "Corvin vessels, this is Luna Station. You are approaching at excessive velocity. Please reduce speed and transmit your docking requirements." "Luna Station, this is Corvin Diplomatic Vessel 1. We are adjusting our approach. Please prepare your docking bay for our arrival." Sarah watched the alien ships through the station's external cameras. They were sleek, predatory-looking craft that moved with a fluid grace impossible with human technology. As they approached the docking bay, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The ships weren't slowing down for a gentle docking. They were positioning themselves for a boarding action. "All personnel, this is the captain," Sarah announced over the station's intercom. "We are now at condition red. This is not a drill. All security teams to defensive positions." The alien ships attached themselves to Luna Station with a series of metallic clanks that reverberated through the hull. Sarah could hear the sounds of cutting equipment as the aliens began forcing their way through the station's hull. This wasn't a diplomatic mission. It was an invasion. Asterisk. Lieutenant Alex Rodriguez was in the station's small fighter bay when the alarm sounded. A young pilot had been running diagnostics on his ship when the proximity alerts began. Now he found himself in the middle of humanity's first interstellar conflict. "Rodriguez, get your fighter powered up." Sarah's voice came through his comm unit. "We need eyes on those alien ships." Alex didn't need to be told twice. His fighter, the Defiant, was a prototype design that pushed the boundaries of human technology. It wasn't much compared to the alien ships, but it was fast and maneuverable. He sealed his helmet and launched from the station's small bay dot as Alex's fighter moved away from Luna Station. He got his first clear look at the alien vessels. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, with organic curves that seemed to shift and flow in the light. But beauty aside, they were clearly designed for war. Luna Station, this is Rodriguez. I'm seeing multiple weapon ports on the alien ships. They're not here to talk. Sarah's voice crackled through the comb. Copy that, Rodriguez? We've got alien forces attempting to board the station. Stand by for further orders. Inside Luna Station, the first alien boarding party had successfully cut through the outer hull. Sarah watched through security cameras as six-limbed creatures empowered. Armor moved through the corridors with military precision. They were clearly experienced at this type of operation. Dr. Webb was frantically downloading data from the stations. Computers when the first aliens reached the command center. The door burst open, and 3 of the creatures entered with weapons drawn. Sarah raised her hands, signaling surrender, but her mind was racing. Humans of Luna Station. One of the aliens spoke through a translation device. You will submit to temporary detention while our assessment is completed. Resistance will result in harm. Sarah looked at the alien's weapon, some kind of energy projector that hummed with barely contained power. But she also noticed something else. The alien's armor, while advanced, appeared to be designed for fighting other energy-based weapons. It was sleek and curved, probably excellent for deflecting plasma bolts. But it didn't look like it would stand up well to kinetic impacts. I am Captain Sarah Chun, commanding officer of this station, she said, keeping her voice steady. I demand to speak with your commanding officer. The alien's compound eyes fixed on her. You are in no position to make demands, human. Your species lacks the technology to threaten us. That was their first mistake. Sarah had spent 10 years in Earth's military, including 3 tours in various conflict zones. She knew how to read enemy soldiers, and these aliens were overconfident. They saw humans as primitives, incapable of meaningful resistance. You're right, Sarah said, slowly reaching for her sidearm. We are primitive. But sometimes primitive works. The alien began to raise its weapon, but Sarah was faster. Her .45 caliber pistol was a relic compared to the alien's energy weapon, but the heavy bullet punched through the alien's armor like paper. The creature fell backward, its weapon clattering to the floor. The other 2 aliens stared in shock for a crucial second. They had never seen armor-piercing kinetic rounds before. In that moment of hesitation, Dr. Webb grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed the nearest alien with carbon dioxide. The creature's optical sensors were temporarily blinded, giving Sarah time to fire 2 more rounds. All personnel, this is the captain, Sarah announced over the intercom. The aliens are vulnerable to kinetic weapons. Their armor is designed for energy attacks, not bullets. Fight back with everything you have. Throughout Luna Station, the tide of battle began to turn. Human security teams, armed with conventional firearms, found that their primitive weapons were surprisingly effective against the alien boarders. The aliens' advanced armor, designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons, offered little protection against high-velocity metal projectiles. Outside the station, Lieutenant Rodriguez watched in amazement as more alien ships began approaching from the mothership. He counted at least 20 smaller vessels, all bristling with weapons. They were coming to overwhelm the station with sheer numbers. Luna Station, this is Rodriguez. I count 20+ alien ships inbound. They're not taking any chances this time. Sarah's voice came through the comm, slightly out of breath from the fighting inside the station. Rodriguez, we need you to buy us some time. Can you delay those ships? Alex looked at his fighter's weapon systems. 2 short-range missiles, a 30mm cannon, and a few defensive countermeasures. Against 20 alien ships, he didn't stand a chance. But he also knew that sometimes the impossible was just another word for not yet accomplished. Roger that, Luna Station. I'll give you all the time I can. Alex turned his fighter toward the approaching alien fleet and pushed the throttle to maximum. The Defiant accelerated toward the enemy ships at full burn. He had a plan, but it was completely insane. As he approached the alien formation, Alex activated his fighter's emergency beacon. To the aliens, it would look like a distress signal. To Earth's defense grid, it was something else entirely. He aimed his fighter directly at the largest alien ship and prepared to fire his missiles. The aliens, seeing a single human fighter charging their formation, probably thought he was attempting some kind of suicide attack. They were partially right. Alex fired both missiles at the lead ship, then used his fighter's maneuvering thrusters to spin away from the formation at the last second. The missiles struck the alien ship's shields, causing minimal damage. But that wasn't the point. The real purpose was to mark the target for what came next. High above Earth, 3 orbital defense platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites suddenly came online. These weapons had been installed in secret over the past decade, humanity's insurance policy against unknown threats. Each platform was armed with kinetic bombardment systems, essentially very sophisticated railguns that could fire tungsten rods at incredible velocities. Tungsten rods, each weighing several tons, accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed before striking their targets. The alien shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were completely ineffective against the kinetic bombardment. 3 alien ships were destroyed instantly, their hulls torn apart by the devastating impacts. The remaining alien ships immediately began evasive maneuvers, but they were too late. The orbital platforms had already locked onto their targets. More tungsten rods streaked through space, each one finding its mark with deadly precision. Admiral Zex Corvin watched the destruction of his advanced fleet with growing disbelief. In 2 centuries of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. The humans were supposed to be primitives, barely capable of interplanetary travel. Yet they had just destroyed half his ships with weapons he didn't even recognize. Admiral, Sub-Commander Vex reported, her voice shaking. "We're receiving a transmission from the human station." "Put it through," Zex commanded, his confidence shaken for the first time in decades. Captain Sarah Chun's image appeared on the main screen. Her uniform was torn, and there was blood on her face, but her eyes were steady and determined. "Admiral Corvin, I am Captain Sarah Chun of Luna Station. I want to make something very clear. You attacked a peaceful research station and attempted to capture our personnel. This was an act of war." Zex's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Captain Chun, there has been a misunderstanding. We were simply conducting a standard integration assessment. Your species' reaction was unexpected." "Integration assessment?" Sarah's voice carried a dangerous edge. "You mean invasion." "Let me explain something to you, Admiral. Humans don't integrate well. We have a saying, 'Don't tread on me.' You just found out what that means." The transmission ended, leaving Zex staring at a blank screen. For the first time in his long career, he was facing a species that had not only refused to surrender, but had actually inflicted significant casualties on his forces. "Admiral," Vex said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach to this species." Zex looked at the tactical display, where the icons representing his destroyed ships blinked ominously. The humans had used their primitive technology in ways he never could have imagined. Their kinetic weapons were crude, but devastatingly effective. Their tactics were unpredictable and seemingly suicidal, yet they had worked. Send a message to the Syndicate Council, Zex ordered. Revise the classification of the human species from Category 5 to Category 2. Recommend extreme caution in future. Interactions. As the stellar fang began its withdrawal from the solar system, Zex couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. The humans had shown they were willing to fight, and they had proven their weapons could hurt Corvin ships. But more importantly, they had shown something that no Category 5 species had ever demonstrated before. They had shown that they were not afraid to die for their freedom. Back on Luna Station, Sarah stood in the damaged command center, looking out at the wreckage of alien ships floating in space. The first battle was over, but she knew it was just the beginning. The aliens would be back, and next time they would be prepared for human tactics. Captain, Dr. Webb said, approaching with a tablet full of data. I've been analyzing the alien technology we captured. Their weapons are incredibly sophisticated, but they're also predictable. They follow patterns, algorithms. Human warfare is chaotic, unpredictable. That might be our advantage. Sarah nodded, her mind already working on plans for the next encounter. Marcus, I want you to work with Earth Command on analyzing everything we learned today. We need to understand their technology, their tactics, their psychology. What about you, Captain? Sarah looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, alien commanders were reassessing their opinion of humanity. They had expected to find a primitive species ready for conquest. Instead, they had found something much more dangerous. A species that refused to surrender and had the ingenuity to turn their disadvantages into strengths. I'm going to prepare for their return, Sarah said, because they will be back, and when they come, we'll be ready to show them exactly how lethal humans can be. The first contact between humanity and the Corvin Syndicate had lasted less than 6 hours, but it had changed everything. The aliens had learned that humans were not the easy prey they had expected, and humanity had learned that they were not alone in the universe, and that their new neighbors were not friendly. The stage was set for a conflict that would test both species to their limits. But unknown to the retreating aliens, they had just made a crucial error. They had given humanity time to prepare, time to adapt, and time to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of when their survival was at stake. The real war was about to begin. Asterisk. The human factor 6 months after the Luna Station incident. The Corvin Syndicate's largest war fleet hung like a dark cloud at the edge of the solar system. War Prime Vex stood aboard the flagship Eternal Domination, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming under the command chamber's bioluminescent lighting. Unlike Admiral Zex's reconnaissance force, this fleet was designed for one purpose: total subjugation. War Prime reported his tactical officer. The human homeworld remains active. Their orbital facilities have increased by 30% since our last encounter. Vex's compound eyes studied the holographic display with the patience of a predator. In his 3 centuries of service, he had crushed 42 rebellions and conquered 18 star systems. The humans would be no different, despite their surprising showing against Zex's advance force. They are preparing for war, Vex observed, his voice carrying the authority of absolute command. Good. It will make their defeat more satisfying. War Prime's assessment was partially correct. Earth had indeed been preparing for war, but not in the way the Corvins expected. Instead of building massive fleets or developing energy weapons, humanity had done something far more dangerous. They had adapted. Commander, Elena Vasquez stood in the war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, surrounded by screens showing the disposition of human forces throughout the solar system. The Strategic Defense Command had been created immediately after the Luna Station incident, and Elena had been chosen to lead it specifically because of her unconventional thinking. Status. Report, Elena commanded, her voice calm despite the magnitude of the threat approaching Earth. The alien fleet consists of approximately 200 vessels, reported Colonel James Mitchell, her intelligence officer. Our analysis suggests they're configured for planetary bombardment and occupation. They're not planning to negotiate. This time, Elena nodded. The intelligence matched what they had learned from the captured alien technology. The Corvins were approaching this as a traditional conquest. Overwhelm the enemy with superior firepower, then occupy their territory. It was a strategy that had worked for them countless times before. "What about our preparations?" Elena asked. "Project Prometheus is ready for deployment," Mitchell replied. "All orbital platforms are online and loaded with the new ammunition. The asteroid belt installations are operational, and the outer system monitoring stations are in position." Elena smiled grimly. Project Prometheus was humanity's answer to the Corvin threat, and it was unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. Instead of trying to match the Corvins' advanced technology, humans had chosen to weaponize their own ingenuity. Dr. Marcus Webb, now serving as the project's chief scientist, had spent the past 6 months studying every piece of alien technology captured during the Luna Station battle. His discoveries had been revolutionary, not because they allowed humans to copy alien technology, but because they revealed the Corvins' fundamental weaknesses. "Elena, you need to see this," Marcus called from his workstation. The physicist had been analyzing the latest intelligence from deep space monitoring stations. "The Corvin fleet is moving into attack formation. They'll be within bombardment range in 18 hours. Elena studied the tactical display. The Corvin ships were arranged in a precise geometric pattern, each vessel positioned to provide maximum firepower while maintaining optimal defensive coverage. It was textbook fleet tactics, the kind taught in military academies across the galaxy. "They're following standard doctrine," Elena observed. "Predictable formations, systematic approach, overwhelming firepower. They're fighting the last war." "What do you mean?" asked General Robert Hayes, who had just arrived from Earth Defense Command. "They're applying the same tactics that worked against other species," Elena explained. "But humans don't fight like other species. We adapt, we improvise, we do the unexpected." They're about to learn that lesson the hard way. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Domination, War Prime Vex was reviewing the final attack plans with his senior officers. The strategy was simple and effective. Approach the human homeworld in battle formation, destroy their orbital defenses with concentrated firepower, then deploy occupation forces to pacify the surface. "War Prime," his sensor officer reported, "we're detecting unusual activity in the asteroid belt. Multiple objects moving toward our position." Vex examined the sensor data with mild interest. The humans were probably attempting some kind of desperate last-minute defense. It was pathetic. Really, a few asteroids would not stop the might of the Corvin fleet. "Ignore them," Vex commanded. "Maintain formation and continue the approach. Prepare for orbital bombardment." What the Corvins didn't realize was that those asteroids were actually the first phase of humanity's defense plan. Captain David Kim floated in his stealth ship Ghostwalker, which had been camouflaged to look like a piece of space debris. He and dozens of other pilots were hidden throughout the asteroid belt, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. "Ghostwalker to command," David whispered into his comm unit. "Corvin fleet is maintaining formation. They're not detecting our ships." Elena's voice came through the encrypted channel. "Copy that? Ghostwalker. Proceed with Phase 1. Show them what human ingenuity looks like." David smiled as he activated his ship's primary weapon system. The Ghostwalker wasn't armed with energy weapons or missiles. It carried something far more devastating. The ship's cargo bay was filled with hundreds of small, autonomous devices that looked like nothing more than metallic spheres. "Deploying smart mines," David reported as his ship released its cargo. The spheres scattered in all directions, each one powered by a simple but effective AI program. They would wait, hidden among the asteroids, until the Corvin fleet passed by. Similar releases were happening throughout the asteroid belt as hidden human ships deployed thousands of the smart mines. Each mine was programmed to attack a specific type of target using tactics developed from studying Corvin defensive patterns. Corvin fleet continued its stately advance, completely unaware of the trap being set around them. War Prime Vex was confident in his fleet's superiority. His ships were shielded, heavily armed, and crewed by experienced warriors. What could a primitive species possibly do against such overwhelming force? The answer came when the fleet reached the asteroid belt's outer edge. The smart mines activated simultaneously, emerging from their hiding places like a swarm of angry insects. But instead of attacking the Corvin ships directly, they did something unexpected. They began pushing asteroids into the fleet's path. War Prime, a sensor officer called out in alarm. Multiple objects on collision course. They're using the asteroids as weapons. Vex watched in growing amazement as hundreds of asteroids, some the size of buildings, began converging on his fleet. The humans weren't using advanced weapons. They were using the solar system itself as a weapon. Evasive maneuvers. Vex commanded, "All ships break formation." But breaking formation was exactly what the humans wanted. The moment the Corvin ships began to scatter, the second phase of the attack began. Captain Sarah Chun, now commanding the upgraded Luna station, activated the hidden weapons platforms throughout the solar system. All platforms, this is Luna. Command, execute Operation Sledgehammer. Fire at will. The orbital defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites and research stations, revealed their true nature. Kinetic bombardment systems, railguns, and mass drivers opened fire simultaneously. But these weren't the same weapons that had surprised the Corvins 6 months ago. These were improved versions, designed specifically to counter Corvin defensive. Systems. The tungsten rods streaking through space weren't just kinetic penetrators. They were smart weapons, equipped with basic guidance systems and programmed to adjust their trajectory based on target movement. When the Corvin ships tried to dodge, the rods followed them. War Prime Vex watched in growing horror as his fleet was decimated by an enemy that seemed to be everywhere at once. Asteroids crushed ships that had survived a dozen major battles. Kinetic weapons punched through shields that were supposed to be impenetrable. And worst of all, the humans were using tactics that made no sense according to military doctrine. War Prime, as communications officer reported, "We are receiving a transmission from the human homeworld." "Put it through," Vex commanded, his voice tight with rage and disbelief. Commander Elena Vasquez appeared on the main screen, her expression calm and professional. Behind her, the war room buzzed with activity as human forces coordinated there. "Assault. War Prime Vex," Elena began. "I am Commander Elena Vasquez of Earth Strategic Defense Command. I want to make our position clear. Human, you will surrender immediately," Vex snarled. "Your primitive tactics may have caused some damage, but you cannot defeat the entire Corvin fleet." Elena's smile was cold and calculating. "War Prime, you made the same mistake your predecessor did. You assumed that primitive means ineffective. Let me show you what human warfare really looks like." The transmission ended, and immediately the third phase of the human attack began. From hidden positions throughout the solar system, human fighters launched themselves at the scattered Corvin fleet. But these weren't conventional fighters. They were suicide drones, programmed to ram Corvin ships at maximum velocity. Lieutenant Alex Rodriguez, now promoted to squadron leader, coordinated the drone attacks from his command ship. "All drones, this is Rodriguez. Target the largest ships first. Maximum impact velocity." The drones, each packed with conventional explosives, struck the Corvin fleet like a meteor shower. Their guidance systems had been programmed with data from the Luna Station battle, allowing them to target weak points in Corvin ship design. The aliens' shields, designed to deflect energy weapons, were useless against kinetic impacts, but the most devastating phase of the attack was yet to come. Dr. Marcus Webb had made a crucial discovery during his analysis of Corvin technology. Their ships were vulnerable to cascading system failures. If you could overload one system, it would cause failures throughout the entire vessel. Elena, we're ready for the final phase, Marcus reported from his control station. The resonance bombs are in position. Elena nodded. The resonance bombs were humanity's most ingenious weapon, devices that created specific frequency vibrations, designed to cause catastrophic failures in Corvin ship systems. They didn't need to penetrate shields or armor. They just needed to get close enough to transmit their deadly frequency. Deploy resonance bombs, Elena commanded. All frequencies. Maximum power. Throughout the solar system, hidden transmitters began broadcasting the specific frequencies that would cause Corvin ship systems to fail. The aliens' own advanced technology became their weakness as cascading failures rippled through their fleet. Aboard, the Eternal Domination, War Prime Dex watched helplessly as his flagship systems began failing one by one. Weapons offline, shields down, life support fluctuating. The humans had found a way to turn the Corvin's technological superiority against them. War Prime, his engineering officer reported, were experiencing cascade failures throughout the ship. The humans are using some kind of resonance weapon. Dexes. Mandibles clicked in amazement. The humans had done the impossible. They had found a way to defeat superior technology using inferior tools. More importantly, they had shown a level of tactical creativity that the Corvins had never encountered. All ships, Dex commanded through the failing communication system, retreat to minimum safe distance. We need to reassess our strategy. But the humans weren't finished. As the battered Corvin fleet tried to withdraw, they found their escape route blocked by more human forces. Commander Elena Vasquez had anticipated their retreat and positioned ships to cut off their exit. War Prime, Elena's voice came through the communication system. We need to talk. Dex appeared on the screen, his compound eyes reflecting defeat and grudging respect. What are your terms, Commander? Simple, Elena replied. You leave our solar system and never return. You tell your syndicate that humans are not available for integration. And you spread the word that Earth is under our protection. And if we refuse? Elena's expression didn't change. Then we show you what Phase 4 looks like. And trust me, you don't want to see Phase 4. Dex studied the human commander's face and realized she wasn't bluffing. The humans had more surprises waiting, more impossible tactics that would turn Corvin's strength into weakness. For the first time in his career, the War Prime was facing an enemy that couldn't be beaten through conventional means. Your terms are acceptable, Dex said finally. But know this, Commander, the Syndicate will remember this day. Other species will learn of your capabilities. Good, Elena replied. Let them learn. Let them know that humans don't surrender, don't integrate, and don't back down. Let them know that if they threaten Earth, they'll face the same fate you did. The transmission ended, and the surviving Corvin ships began their retreat from the thin solar system. They carried with them a new understanding of humanity, not as primitive creatures ready for conquest, but as a species so dangerous that they could turn their own weaknesses into strengths. As the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Elena stood in the war room, surrounded by her exhausted but victorious staff. The first interstellar war in human history was over, and humanity had won not through superior technology, but through superior adaptability. Commander, General Hayes said, what happens now? Elena looked at the tactical display, where the icons representing human forces or scattered throughout the solar system. Now we prepare for the next challenge. The Corvins will tell other species about us, and not all of them will be deterred by our victory. Are you worried? Asked Dr. Webb. Elena smiled, the same cold smile she had shown War Prime Vex. No, Marcus. I'm excited. We've just proven that humans can defeat any enemy, no matter how advanced. We've shown Asterisk